government is putting finishing touches to its economic data to present to the International Monetary Fund for the engagement to secure a bailout package. The team is expected to in Accra today from Washington, D.C. for negotiations to begin from tomorrow. Joy Business News editor George Uyafe joins us in studio on what more to expect during this engagement. George, thank you very much. What do we know when the team, do we know when the team will be arriving in the country today?
Well, if you want to stick to the Ministry of Finance document or statement they issued earlier on, they are talking about them arriving today. Okay. If you want to stick to what the IMF is saying, they have said that they should be in town on the 6th for negotiations to start. Looking at normally their flight engagements, they would touch down in the evening. So maybe they'll touch down this evening and negotiations or discussions will start from tomorrow. Just like what we've been told earlier on, government on its side, they are getting their documents together so that if the fund calls for some document that we want something on the latest update on our debt situation, they'll be able to provide it. So government itself has already put in its document together. Already we've seen a document being put out by the Ministry of Finance about some Q&A. It tells you that government had put its document together long before last week when the official announcement came out that they are indeed going to begin some formal engagement. So these data are being put together to ensure that they can engage the fund if they should call for anything. And that is what we understand, that on government side, they are ready to engage the fund when they come in. When they also come in, they will be calling for some data on the economy with respect to some sectors and all those things. And that will give them a fair idea about what will be the next line of action. If you read through the Ministry of Finance Q&A document about the IMF, you get a fair idea about the government's economic program that will be putting together. And even if you go through the International Monetary Fund's own press release that they've issued ahead of the engagement, it tells you that they will be looking forward to government's own economic program that will be putting ahead, and then they will give their stamp of approval. If you go again through that same document, the Ministry of Finance is insisting that this is not a bailout, this is an economic program that they are putting forward, and they're looking forward to the fund approving it for them.
But any difference between the bailout and the
So bailout basically it connotes that you are in crisis and you need immediate funds to kind of turn things around. But according to government, the argument is that they don't think that we are in crisis. They feel that they need some financial assistance and also some policy credibility to turn things around. And therefore, that is why the fund itself, or one would say that the new IMF is now trying to push this whole argument that any country that applies for a program, we want you to tell us what the problems are and how are you working to address those problems, and then we will approve it. So government, from the document again, government is hoping that they can close these negotiations within the next 7 months. And then the program could take off maybe in the next 8th or maybe even a year for the program to take off. So for government, they would want to put forward a program for some kind of policy credibility and then some balance of payment support. And that, they claim, shouldn't be put forward as a bailout, as in them in financial crisis, and therefore without the support from the fund, nothing can be done.
Interesting. So it means that even this program that we're going for, we are not expecting it to roll out this year.
It depends on how negotiations pan out. We understand that our debt situation will be a major point of discussion during this meeting. So if things go as smooth as we are all expecting, then maybe all other things being equal, the program maybe should take off next year. That is, if things should go as smooth as planned. But if it drags and there are arguments and there are fights about how things should be done, maybe even in the middle of next year or something.
Okay, and once it's negotiation, these things are expected to happen. Agreement and disagreement over what
calculations, how things should be done, why certain programs should be captured. The fund would want to look at how, and as we explained earlier on, one major area that these negotiations will focus on is how to reduce your total debt stock. So what are the other areas that are seen as the extras, quote, if some of government has said that they were going to maintain some of their social intervention programs, but it is not for you to have that 100% commitment that it's going to happen. During the negotiation, if the fund believes that some of these commitment that you are advancing funds towards is not needed, and if you have to do a crash program to bring your debt situation under control, maybe you may have to review some of these programs. Okay. Can we have a situation where even the free SHS, those who can afford to pay, would pay? But if you also look at the fund again, in every program, they are more concerned about how the poor in society can be protected. So a program like LEAP, they might even be pushing for more funding for that area. How do they ensure that any program, any fund program, doesn't affect the poor in society? So any program that is well targeted at the less privileged in society, the fund will seek to protect it. That's why they are against subsidizing fuel for those who are using V8.
Okay, interesting. So that's George Weafi. He's still with me. But let's go take you through what the Finance Ministry has put out in terms of your frequently asked questions as to how you can really understand what government is going to do with this. Now, what on your screen now is what government, the Ministry of Finance has put together. It says, why has Ghana decided to seek support from the IMF? Well, the answers are that government wants to go to the IMF for balance of payment support, for concessional, cheaper financing to shore up international reserves, stabilize the city, which is going through a lot now, continue smooth payment for imports, including petroleum product, pharmaceuticals, medical equipment, among others, and to restore conditions for strong, economic performance. Also, they are going to the IMF to provide catalytic effect of accessing additional financing from third parties, in friendly sovereigns and commercial creditors, including resuming ICM market access sooner than later. Also, to facilitate credit rating upgrade. Recently, we've had some downgrading, and so going to the IMF will ensure that we have some upgrade there. One other question people ask is, what type of lending will Ghana get under an IMF-supported program? Government says it is yet to engage the IMF on the type of support that will be suitable for Ghana. Typically, IMF lending is for balance of payment support. Therefore, depending on the assessment of the macroeconomic challenges, the IMF's various lending instruments are tailored to different types of balance of payment need, as well as the specific circumstances of its diverse membership. Another question that people do ask on this whole program with the IMF is, how long will it take for the negotiations between Ghana and the IMF to be concluded? Now, the answer given is that IMF-supported program negotiations take some time to be concluded, and you heard George allude to that earlier. Depending on the availability of data to assess the macroeconomic situation, the readiness and suitability of the government's economic program and nature, and feasibility of any prior conditions to be completed by government, program negotiations can be quick or protracted for up to 6 months or more. And you heard George tell us earlier that it could take us to next year. So that's what the Finance Ministry is also alluding to there. George, so just as you said.
Even from the Finance Ministry statement, I mean, if you want to hold all factors constant, a program would not kick off this year. All other things being equal, it will take off next year. And that will depend on how updated their economic data is. And that is why we understand that since last week, they've been finalizing this data, crossing the T's, dotting the I, because you want to make sure that some of these data doesn't delay the program, so that you are set, you are complete to engage the fund. Then how prepared you are and how prepared you, the person who's requesting for the program, to make some concessions would help. Again, don't forget that government is not just looking for the money, but also looking forward to the market responding. In that statement, they spoke about market access. How can they go back to the Eurobond market, where in the past program, we had the World Bank coming on board to use their AAA to support Ghana, and even the IMF as well. That will bring down your cost of borrowing. Already, just the news about government saying that we'll go for a fund program has impacted our 2027 Eurobond. It has dropped from 23% to 19%. So if our interest servicing cost is one of our biggest spending items, This is what a fund program will do to the country.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, George. Now,